Hi, let's get started using Visual Studio Code, and we're going to create a C# application. Now, I'm using Windows, and in this case it happens to be Windows 10. If you're using a Mac, in theory it's the same, but since I don't have a Mac, I can't really tell you what the differences are going to be. But I'm going to do this in Windows, and it should be similar. So let's go ahead and do this. So first, you'll need to download Visual Studio Code for whichever operating system that you have. So if it's a Mac or Windows or Linux, the downloads, you'll need to track down the downloads page for that. Okay, so I've already installed Visual Studio Code. I happen to be using Windows, so mine looks a little like this when it comes up. So once I have it installed and I want to run a C# program, here are some of the steps. I will need to download Microsoft's .NET Core Framework, SDK, Software Development Kit. Now, this is code that Microsoft has built, which it has developed. You can download it to your computer, and then you can run Microsoft applications. You can create and run Microsoft applications like C# programs or Visual Basic programs. So if you're doing Visual Studio, if you have a Windows and you're doing Visual Studio, then you won't need to do this. But if you're doing Mac, then download the .NET SDK. Once you download and install it, make sure it's in the path so that you have access to it. Then next, what you want to do is go to the command prompt and navigate to that folder where you're going to be running your programs. Okay, so say I'm going to open up File Explorer and find a folder where I'm going to be using these. And I have on my computer, I created a folder called VS Code-repo. And so this is where I'm going to create my folder and open up my file. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to do this through the command prompt. So from the command prompt, I've navigated to that folder on my computer, and from here I'm going to do, let's see from the example what the code is. .NET new console. Okay, so .NET new console -o my app. I'm going to leave it in lowercase and press the enter key. Processing, running, restore succeeded. I'm going to do a dir and see that. So it did create the folder my app. I'm going to navigate into that, drill down into my app. So I'm going to say change directory to my app. And there I am. dir. Okay, now I've got it created for me this folder, my app, and it gave me, also created the .cs file and the C# project file. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Now that I've done that, now that I've created that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code, and let me see, I'm going to check back with the site and make sure that this is the way they're doing it. So this is the program that's in the program.cs. So it's already there. It created that automatically. And if I wanted to run that in the command prompt, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and do .NET run, and it should come up with hello world. Hello world. Okay, so it's working okay. So I've got Visual Studio Code, and I've got the .NET loaded in there. And let's see what we do next. So I'm going to type code, period. And when I press the Enter key, Visual Studio Code starts up, and you notice that it opens up my app, that folder, and inside of that folder is program.cs, and required assets to build and debug are missing from my app. Add them? Yes. I'm going to go ahead and add those. Okay, from here, let me go ahead and open this up. So here's that code that was generated for me. And I want to go ahead and run this. So I'll go to Terminal. And I'm going to run .NET restore. And now let's see if it will run .NET run. And you notice this is color coded so that I know that it's recognizing those, and run. Let's see if it'll run. Should output hello world. And it worked. Okay, so let's try something different. Okay, so I've got one line of output. Okay, when Visual Studio runs, it is using, in the .NET Core, there's a bunch of code that's under the name system. So the first line that I put in here is go ahead and use system, and that way it includes it. I don't have to come up with that code on my own. It's already written for me by Microsoft. The namespace is a way to organize my code. Everything that I'm writing here is inside of a folder or a group of files that's called a namespace, and this namespace is given the name My App, which is the name of the folder that I created. Inside of this namespace, there's see if I can highlight it here. There's a class. Class, whatever definition you had for the word class, remove that. Class program. So there's an organization of code inside my namespace that's organized under the name of class. In this case, I only have one class, and by default, it's called program. Now, inside of that class, I've got, in this case, I've just got one method. And the name of that method is main. This static and void, we'll look at that sometime later. But inside of here, we've got a method called main. And there are some arguments in here. I'm not going to worry about these right now. But inside of this main method, this is where the program starts running. This is the first place the compiler comes to find out what you've written and start running it and executing it. So it's saying write this line, and this line right here, to the console window, which is going to be down here. So write this line to the console window, and this line is going to be hello world. Now you notice I put hello world inside of double quotes. That means literally whatever's inside of these double quotes is going to print. So if I put that inside the double quotes, it's going to print that. Let me put another line down here. Console dot write line. Ooh, there it is. I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then in parentheses, and then inside of double quotes, I'm going to say this is the second line. Okay. Still giving me a little red curly line here. That means I have an error in my program, and when I hover over it, it says an expected semicolon. So at the end of each one of these statements, C# statements or lines, I'm going to need a semicolon. So inside of this main method, I have two statements, this one and this one. I have a semicolon on the end of each one of those. And I cannot have one of these. Uppercase and lowercase is important, very important. So let me show you this. Well, first let me go ahead and run this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. File, save. So I'm going to save this file, and now I'm going to go ahead and run this. I'm going to do debug restore just to be safe. No, I meant .NET restore. It's not going to like that. Doggone it. .NET restore. And it restored everything completely, so that worked. So .NET run this file, and let's see if it will print those two lines. And there it is. It printed those two lines there, and those are the two lines that it printed. You notice it printed everything inside of those double quotes. Okay, so this file is located in the My App folder, and so I need to zip this entire file. So I'm going to go to Explorer, or whatever you're using to find or locate those files, and I'm going to zip that entire folder. So when I created that folder via Visual Studio Code-repo, I opened up Visual Studio Code, and it opened up here so that it found my folder, and I'm going to drill down in there, and it found my file, in particular the program.cs file. And let's see, you can open this with something quick. Open with Notepad. Okay, darn it. Okay. So, Visual Studio Code, and yeah, here it is. Okay, so program.cs, opened it in Notepad. Here's the code. So you can see that it saved everything. And that's pretty much it. That's what it ran. So I'm going to go back to that folder, my app folder. I'm going to back up one. So here's my entire folder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to compress this or zip this. And whether you're using Windows or Mac, you can compress this folder. So desktop, create shortcut, compressed. I want to compress this. So I'm going to zip this. Now, if for some reason you have a version of your OS that doesn't have a built-in compression program, you can download 7-zip or whatever's the latest and greatest compression program. And there it's all zipped up for you. Now, I needed to make sure that I could see the extension. So view file extension. I made sure that that was ticked. So that way I could see that I could see this .zip on the end of that, so I know it's zipped up. Also, the icon has a little zipper on it, shows you that it's zipped. But either way, so that's what I would upload for the assignment. Okay. So now that I've completed my assignment, I've zipped that folder. I go submit assignment. I want to go choose my file. It's this one. Open that up. So comments. I need to take my comments and paste them in here and answer those. And submit the comments. Okay, so I've got all the comments for it, and I submit assignments. So I'm submitting my file and the comments, and it should say. It doesn't say, and here I can scroll over to see. Do it this way. Okay. In this perspective, I cannot show you, but over on the right-hand side, it says the time and date that the program was uploaded and submitted, and whether or not it was late or not. Okay, and that should do it. Visual Studio Code, a basic C# assignment, and that should do it.